sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so get this. We're diving into something pretty wild. A president-elect facing sentencing in a criminal case just before taking office.
Yeah, you don't see that every day. It's this crazy clash between the courts and the political world, and the fact that it's happening to a president-elect.
Pretty much unheard of.
Exactly.
We've got court filings and legal arguments and a timeline that's enough to make anyone's head spin.
Absolutely.
Our mission today is to figure out how we even got here, what's going on in the judge's mind, and what this all means for Trump's presidency.
Sounds good.
We're talking about the hush money case, right? The one where Trump was found guilty of falsifying business records related to a payment to Stormy Daniels back in 2016.
That's the one. But what makes this so explosive is the timing.
Because the sentencing is scheduled for January 10th.
Yep. Just 10 days before the inauguration.
Wow, and Trump is fighting back hard, trying to stop this whole thing.
He's pulling out all the stops.
Yeah.
He's filed what's called an Article 78 motion against the Manhattan DA and the judge.
What's an Article 78 motion?
It's basically a legal challenge. He's claiming that the judge went too far by denying his arguments about presidential immunity.
So he's saying, hold on, I might be immune from all of this because I'm about to be president.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, his team is arguing that the judge is ignoring the fact that he might be immune by making him go through sentencing while these appeals are still up in the air.
And to make things even more complicated, he's also asked for a stay of the sentencing.
Right. They're claiming that just because he's appealing the judge's earlier rulings on presidential immunity, that should automatically put a stop to the whole case.
So much legal back and forth. But the Judge Merchan, he's not backing down.
Nope. He denied both of Trump's requests.
He did.
In his response, Judge Merchan basically said that Trump's arguments are just rehashed versions of points that he already made and rejected.
So the judge isn't impressed.
Not really.
Yeah.
The judge also emphasized that this case is about Trump's unofficial conduct, things he did before he was even president-elect. It means it's about actions he took outside of his official role as president, things that shouldn't interfere with his presidential duties.
So the judge is saying this is not about Trump's actions as president or even president-elect.
Precisely. And the judge also pointed out that Trump himself asked for delays earlier in the case.
So now he's complaining about the timing.
It does seem a bit ironic, like he's trying to have it both ways.
A bit. And here's where things get really interesting. Judge Merchan has said he plans to give Trump what's called an unconditional discharge.
Yeah, that caught my attention too.
Unconditional discharge? What does that even mean?
It's basically a legal slap on the wrist. It means that while it will be on his record, there's no real punishment.
So the judge isn't letting Trump off completely, but he's not exactly throwing the book at him either.
Right. It's somewhere in between.
Okay, so what about the Manhattan District Attorney? They're not just sitting on the sidelines, are they?
Oh, no. They are definitely pushing back. Their argument boils down to this. We've bent over backward to accommodate your immunity claims, but you haven't met the requirements for a full stop to this case.
They're not holding back.
No, they're making it clear that a president-elect isn't the same as the president.
Which is crucial to their argument. They're saying that these legal proceedings won't affect Trump's actual duties as president.
Exactly. They're basically saying that Trump's own actions led to this timing crunch.
But Trump's lawyers are holding their ground.
They're standing firm. They insist that any sentence is completely wrong because of legal errors, especially regarding presidential immunity.
And they're also raising concerns that the sentencing will disrupt Trump's transition into office and possibly even affect the entire federal government.
Yeah, that's a serious claim. They're trying to make people think about the consequences beyond Trump himself.
Trying to raise the stakes.
Definitely. It's a way of framing this as a bigger issue.
So much to unpack here.
For sure, and it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, like how much will this case actually affect Trump's ability to govern effectively?
Yeah.
And what does this mean for future presidential transitions?
Big questions, and those are exactly what we'll be tackling in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, it really does make you wonder how much this whole thing will actually impact Trump's ability to govern.
Right. Even if the judge goes ahead with this, slap on the wrist sentence, this has already turned into a major political circus.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how this case is really exposing the cracks in our political landscape,
Like a magnifying glass.
Exactly.
On one side, you've got Trump supporters who see all of this as nothing but a witch hunt, a desperate attempt to take him down before he even steps into the Oval Office.
And then you have the other side who believe that this case is a crucial test of accountability.
That no one is above the law, not even the president-elect.
Right. It's like this whole thing has just thrown gasoline on an already out-of-control fire.
It's definitely intensified things.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what happens legally, this will cast a shadow over Trump's entire presidency. Without a doubt, the fact that he was found guilty, even with a light sentence, is going to fuel so much distrust and animosity.
Between both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes you wonder, will all this drama actually make it harder for Trump to govern effectively? Can he focus on the job with this legal cloud hanging over him?
It's a good question. I mean, beyond the immediate political fallout, what about the long-term implications of this? Could this set some kind of precedent for future presidents-elect who find themselves in legal trouble?
That's something legal scholars are wrestling with right now. We're in completely uncharted territory.
Because while this situation is definitely unique, there's nothing to stop future presidents-elect from facing similar situations.
Exactly. This case is really shining a light on the tension that exists between the judicial and executive branches.
Because the courts are there to uphold the law and hold everyone accountable.
Right. But the president is responsible for running the country.
And when a president, or in this case a president-elect, is hit with criminal charges, those two roles can clash in a big way.
Absolutely. It's like a constitutional stress test. It's pushing the entire system to its limits. And the outcome could really reshape how we think about presidential power, the independence of the courts, the rule of law, for years to come.
Like we keep saying, uncharted territory.
Totally. And that's what makes it so hard to predict what will happen next. I mean, we're basically making history as we speak.
It's true. But one thing is clear. The stakes are incredibly high, and the impact of this case will be felt far and wide.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. The legal back and forth, the political firestorm, the potential consequences.
Right, a lot to consider.
But the biggest question remains, what are the possible outcomes of this whole legal battle? Where do we go from here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Ooh.
And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're back, and the million-dollar question remains, what happens next?
Well, the big thing looming over all of this is the sentencing date, January 10th.
And despite all of Trump's efforts to stop it, the judge seems pretty determined to go ahead. Yeah, he does, but Trump's team is still arguing that any sentence is wrong. They're saying that the appeals process should put everything on hold.
But do they have a leg to stand on?
Honestly, it's a long shot. The judge has already dismissed their arguments multiple times, calling them repetitive and lacking substance.
And he's not buying their argument that the sentencing will interfere with Trump's presidential duties, since he doesn't actually become president until the 20th.
Nope. So unless there's some massive legal curveball, it seems pretty likely that the sentencing will go ahead as planned.
Okay, but what about those appeals? Could they really derail the whole thing?
Potentially, Trump's lawyers have said that they're going to appeal the judge's decisions on presidential immunity. And if those appeals are successful, well, they could overturn the guilty verdict. Or at least delay the sentencing even further.
But appeals can take a long time, right?
Oh yeah, they can drag on for months, even years. And that means this legal cloud hanging over Trump would just keep getting bigger, becoming a constant distraction and a source of uncertainty throughout his entire presidency.
So even with a light sentence, this could follow him for his whole term.
Absolutely. It would become this ongoing saga, a constant source of political and legal battles.
With consequences that could reach far beyond Trump himself.
Exactly. And the outcome of those battles, well, that could have huge implications, not just for Trump personally, but for the presidency as an institution.
So we're basically watching a real-time test of our system of government.
You could say that.
What happens when a president-elect faces criminal charges? How does that balance of power between the courts and the presidency hold up under this kind of pressure?
It's unprecedented, and it's forcing us to grapple with some really fundamental questions.
And like we've talked about, the answers are not simple. There are strong arguments on both sides.
Definitely. Which makes it that much harder to predict what will happen.
Right. It's the lack of clear precedent
Yeah.
that makes this whole situation so fascinating and so unpredictable.
It's like we're sailing in uncharted waters, and the legal and political landscape is constantly shifting beneath us.
So we're wrapping up this deep dive with maybe more questions than answers.
Maybe that's the point.
This whole situation could be a reminder that our democracy isn't some perfect finished product.
Right. It's a work in progress.
This case, with all of its twists and turns and legal battles, it's a reminder that the balance of power is constantly being tested.
And it's up to all of us to engage in these thoughtful conversations about what it all means.
I think there's a saying, democracy is messy.
That's a good one.
But it's through these messy, complex situations that we learn and adapt and hopefully become a more perfect union.
Well said. And as we leave you to think about the implications of this extraordinary case, we encourage you to keep exploring this.
Delve deeper into the legal arguments, the history, the societal impacts.
That's it.
This deep dive might be over, but the conversation is just beginning. Thanks for joining us as we explored this truly unprecedented moment in American history.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll. Show them all what